a few more people. Yeah, the AMC check said it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Seek and Destroy. Obviously the show has ended, but every once in a while I'm going to do one of these specials to kind of bring something unique that I get to do out here in LA to you guys, or if I have something to show you guys, whatever. As you know, a lot of my videos recently, like a lot of people, have been getting demonetized, which is really frustrating because I felt like I was actually starting to build an audience here, you know, passing 500 followers and subs on here. So it's been great, and I appreciate all the support, and I'm sorry for the lack of videos lately. I will be returning to them. I just have computer problems right now. This is just to be something I record quickly and I can put up tonight. So there will be no intro and no bells and whistles on this one. Just me talking about some exclusive footage I saw tonight of Transformers: The Last Night at a special event in IMAX here at Universal City Walk. And the prizes they gave out tonight, which were given out by Golden Apple Comics, which is here in Los Angeles, the comic store I used to work at and shop at. I still shop at. And Ryan was there and with Justin, and it was a great time. They gave out iPads. A lot of these were provided by Michael Bay and Universal, the studio, to promote the movie. So they gave out iPads, drones, they gave out GoPros. I mean, they gave out a lot of prizes. I didn't win anything, but that's okay. I never have luck with that kind of stuff anyway, but it was really cool to see that. Obviously, they gave us a t-shirt, so everyone who went into the movie at least got the t-shirt. We also got this phone charger with multiple outlets, and it has the jack here that tucks in underneath. It says Transformer Last Night on it, which is pretty cool. And then they also gave us these envelopes right here, these big white envelopes that had these posters inside of the, yeah, you're going to see the reflection of my camera, but it has the shield design that you've seen, you know, some of the posters that are going around online, the IMAX poster, and it's the shield, and it has like the Cybertron exploding and Earth, you know, down here, and it's got like, you know, Optimus fighting Megatron possibly, or fighting someone, and Michael Bay actually signed mine, which was really cool. So not only did he sign something for everybody, but he took pictures of everybody, and it was really, really great. A real quick shout out to the people I met in line. Like I said, if you go to my Instagram at Seek and Destroy, you can check out, you know, everyone. I tagged them in the pictures and stuff. So please go check those guys out. Follow them. They were really great. You know, obviously I wasn't feeling that well today when I went over there, but those guys got my energy up, and now I have the energy to make this video. So it's really, really cool. So big shout out to those guys, Johnny and everyone I met today. Thank you so much for lifting my spirits and making me feel cool to be a Transformer fan, because I don't get that a lot these days. Now onto the footage. So we went into the screening, and when we walked in, like I said, they handed us the shirts, they gave us the prints, the posters, they gave us the jump drives, all that, so the phone chargers and stuff. And we sat down, and they gave out all the prizes, the iPads, everyone, you know, a lot of people won cool stuff. And then the footage starts. And it has, you know, the Paramount, you know, logo and stuff, and it has the stars coming up, kind of like it's done in previous movies, and then just jumps right into action, as you would expect from Michael Bay. Right when you see the mountaintops and the stars over it, you see like flaming balls of wreckage or something coming at you. And then the camera pulls, like kind of goes upside down, and then turns and rotates around, and now you're staring at like the Middle Ages, and you're seeing knights on horses, and you're seeing, you know, them fighting, stabbing each other. You see these balls of fire coming in, a lot of debris inside these. It almost looks like castle parts, like just wedged together, that were lit on fire and stuff and just chucked out into the battle. And you see like the Knights of the Round Table and people, you know, losing, like it's starting to lose, and they're waiting for Merlin, you know, and the Knights of the Round, they don't trust Merlin to show up and do the right thing. They're like, oh, he's just a drunk. He's not, you know, I doubt he's really a wizard. And now you have Arthur going, no, and Lancelot like, no, we have to wait for him. I believe he is who he says he is, you know. And then it cuts to Merlin, and he's like this drunk, and he's like drinking on a hilltop, and he's running, trying to get to the battle or go somewhere. And as he's running along, that's when the three-headed dragon we've seen in the trailer comes swooping in, and then he's like breathing fire and stuff, and then it looks like him and Merlin are gonna meet. So we got a lot of snippets of scenes. I wouldn't even say the stuff we saw in that seems like a coherent sequence there. I would even say there's probably stuff that's chopped out of that. You know, so it was like, it felt like snippets. They didn't feel like fully fleshed out scenes. Not all the music was done in some of them. Not all the special effects were done in some of these shots. So it was 25 minutes of just footage. It was, you know, just like random shots and random scenes that they could pull from the movie. They seem to be maybe in sequential order, but it's hard to tell, obviously. So then we cut to from that battle. We cut to kind of present day, and you see the kids, go in. It's like four boys, and they go through this gate, and they're trying to scavenge for a couple like cool items that, you know, one of them's kind of the leader, and the other three are kind of scared being there, and they're like, no, this is against the law, because they're in Chicago and they're like in the zone where the, you know, Age of Extinction, there was battles there, and obviously before that, Dark of the Moon, a lot of this, you know, Chicago got beat up pretty badly in these movies. So they're walking through the wreckage and they're trying to find like cool little souvenirs, and then they come across the Ed 209 type things, like these bipedal walker things that are like kind of look like the geckos from Metal Gear Solid 4. They're really cool looking though, and they come in, they maneuver pretty quickly, and they seem to be, you know, they spot the kids from, you know, heat signature, and it touches back to military guys who are, you know, hey, oh, there's kids here. Obviously, we don't want to shoot the kids. We don't want to hurt the kids. So the machine's like, you know, please step over here and surrender, and, you know, human transport will come and get you. And so it looks like, you know, these things are very closely monitored. It's not just like AI machines out in the field. You know, obviously, humanity, I guess at this point, is definitely afraid, and the military are definitely afraid of the Transformers. So even if they're using some of their tech, they will not give these machines any thought of their own. They definitely program them and keep close eyes, you know, through them and on them at all times. So these things are walking around, and they seem to also detect energon. And so we see a scene where the kids looks like they're going to get captured, and then Izzy shows up, who is played by Isabella Moner, I believe is her name, and she throws like this bottle of green liquid at one of the robots, and it makes the other robot shoot that robot. So I'm guessing she threw some kind of energon or whatever kind of reading these things get. She's smart and very handy and a survivalist, and she chucked these things out there. And then, you know, and it turns one of the robots on the other one. And then now they're only running from one robot. And then the adults are like, okay, we got to go in. We don't want to hurt the kids. We, you know, even though they're, you know, kind of kicked our butt just there, they're still kids. And we're not going to just shoot kids. So then the kids manage to hide, and it's just like that scene we saw from the Beauty and the Beast trailer, or the trailers in front of Beauty and the Beast, where it's Isabelle Moner and she's underneath this debris. She's talking to the kids, and then Canopy stands up and reveals himself. And Canopy, I guess, is kind of Izzy's friend, like him and the little blue robot. I'm blanking on his name right now. I know a lot of you guys will let me know in the comments, but I just have a lot of thoughts going in my head right now. And but that little robot, he was really cool. He gets his arm shot off, and so you instantly feel a little sympathy for him. He's unable to transform, so Izzy's trying to repair him, but every time she tries, he either is too stubborn or he gets injured, like his arm gets blown off and she has to repair it. So she's having a tough time repairing him. And it's kind of suggests that maybe she did some repairs on Canopy, because there definitely seems to be a close relationship there. And then Canopy gets taken out pretty quickly by these drones. And then there's like another drone, or actually, yeah, drones come in and drop like a bomb of sorts on Canopy, but they make sure the humans are monitoring, and they're making sure the kids wouldn't be affected by the damage, even though Canopy almost falls and crushes Izzy, but in his like last moment of strength kind of turns himself so that he doesn't really land on her. At least that's what it looked like from the angle, you know, when I was watching it. I was kind of watching it pretty close, like, so I was kind of looking up a little bit at the screen because there was a pretty packed theater. And then like press or whoever, they had reserved seatings, they got all the better seats, and we were kind of like in the front. So I'm kind of going off that angle, but that's what it looked like he did. And so it looked like he was a hero to the end, and then he, you know, dies in front of her, and she's crying because, you know, this is the only family she has left. And we come to find out after Mark Wahlberg shows up to rescue her and the boys, and he gets her, puts her in the car, in the truck he's in, and the Jeep he's in. Bumblebee shows up, takes down the Ed 209 robot, and they disappear before the human military come in to extract them. And then they go back to their junkyard. And then pretty much from there, it's just them hanging out in the junkyard. You get a couple comical scenes. You get one with Grimlock, where he's kind of like a junkyard dog, really. Like, that's kind of how they treat him. And I mean, as like an old school fan, like, I always thought the Dinobots had kind of a silly origin in the original one, where they were just kind of created from dinosaur bones or something. But Grimlock was always kind of like the lovable idiot in a way, and that's kind of looks like the approach they're going with this one, where he's kind of you know, just a lovable idiot, you know, so far. I mean, we only got one scene with him, but it was pretty funny, I thought, and definitely the kids in the audience liked it. So that's, you know, it's more for them, the humor is more for them than it is for a guy like me. So I just kind of take it as it is, so we had that set up, and then we have Izzy saying like my family died in in Chicago during the the big battle of Chicago, and I've been on my own ever since. And Canopy's the only family I had, and now he's gone too. And so it's just me and this broken blue little robot. Like, please take us in because I want to fight back. I want to fight against the people that did this. And Mark Wahlberg's like, we can't. Like they have money, they have resources, they have the population of America for the most part on their side. People are afraid of these robots, and so to resist against them makes it look like we stand against humanity. At least that's how they're going to paint us. And Mark Wahlberg's on the run, and we saw like a little photograph of his daughter, maybe with a child, safe somewhere like in a field. And so it's like these great shots of her in the foreground, and it's like this nice composition shot where Mark Wahlberg's coming up in the background. And so it gives little hints that maybe his daughter and her boyfriend from Age of Extinction went off and are having a life, maybe under different identities, so that they can stay safe. And Mark Wahlberg is staying here to continue the fight and to fight for some greater cause that he believes in. It's at this point that we're also introduced to a African American guy. I don't know his name. I don't think I caught his name. I'm sure they said it, but I just didn't catch it. But he's kind of like, he's got glasses. He's kind of like a tech guy. And I guess Mark Wahlberg promised him, if you help me out, I'll make you vice president of my new startup company. And so this guy took it on faith that that's where they were heading. And then now they're kind of exposed, and now drones have shown up, and they start to, this guy starts to see, oh crap, I kind of hitched my ride to the wrong star, basically. And I thought this guy was going to lead me to a potential future in something, better than maybe the path I might have been on before. And now I'm just like going to be like a fugitive on the run with this crazy inventor guy in Cade Yeager. So that was cool. That was a neat thing that I wasn't expecting, and he seemed like a neat character. So the three of them are kind of on the run now. They tell the Autobots to disperse, like don't let them catch you. And then they go on the run. And you see them in town, like in this nearby town that looks kind of half abandoned, and they're being hunted by these drones that kind of look like little TIE fighters, but they're like man size. And they come in and they're scanning the area and they're shooting bullets. And meanwhile, Cade has these weapons that he's designed that he showed off earlier when he was saving Izzy. He has these weapons that can shoot through Transformers. So something he possibly invented using tech from some of the weapons he probably got in Age of Extinction. So that was pretty cool to see him, fighting back and being like, no, there are bad robots out there, and there are bad humans out there, and I'm trying to set the record straight in my own way, even though he's not very successful at it. And so I like that because it sets up the next part of his character, which was pretty interesting, because I like these movies for what they are, but I don't always expect big character arcs, and this one seemed to be different. This one seemed to set up things with hopes of paying them off. And so what happens is this character named Cogman shows up, and he's like a butler to Sir Anthony Hopkins' character, and he shows up and to rescue Mark Wahlberg and wants to recruit him and says, look, if you're here with these people, you're putting them in danger because you're on the most wanted list. They can go hide. Like, if you have, a couple of these Autobots, just stay behind and protect them. Just come with me to England, bring Bumblebee, and, if you don't trust us. And so there's this great interaction with Cogman, like standing up to the Autobots, going like, look, you may be bigger than me, because Cogman's human size. I heard he's a headmaster, which for those who don't know is a transformer that transforms just into a head and puts himself on another robot's body and controls that body. So he's man size. So where his body is that he attaches to, we never saw it in this footage. But he was actually a really neat character, and he shows up. He kind of reminded me of that scene in Dark of the Moon, Alan Tudyk, when he lost it in that Russian bar, and he pulled the guns out on everyone, and then he dropped him. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wouldn't say he was on that level of campiness, but he had that trigger. He could turn and just get into a feisty mode. And he had this little twitch in his eye too. He's which was pretty neat. So there was a lot of little character moments about Cogman that I really liked. And so he brings Mark Wahlberg to the UK and over to England, or I don't know exactly where they are. They're in this secret castle that Anthony Hopkins is in. So Anthony Hopkins has this World War I tank that kind of sits outside of his castle and is on guard. And when Bumblebee shows up, it shoots at Bumblebee, and it doesn't know what it's doing. It has robot dementia or something, or a version of dementia where it kind of feels still trapped in the war. So when it transforms, Anthony Hopkins like, hey, settle down, like it's fine, like these guys, I've invited them here, they're coming, like please don't shoot any of our guests. And so that robot's like, okay, and he transforms back into a tank and kind of rolls off. And then Cogman comes up, introduces him, and then we see Hot Rod come in, and he brings in this like English scholar, this woman who is like has a lot of different degrees in teaching and history and stuff like that. And so basically Anthony Hopkins needs her, and he needs Cade Yeager for something very important. He tells Cade, he goes, have you know, the thing you've been trying to be your whole life, like this inventor, this path you're on, sometimes the path you're meant to be on is the one you're running away from, kind of. So like, even though you want to be known for inventing and adding something to the world, maybe you can, but just in a different way, in a way on a path that you didn't know about. And so I need to recruit you. And they put like this weird, like Cybertronian trinket runs up his arm and latches onto his arm, and it has like a crest on it. And then Anthony Hopkins mentions that he's a member of the Witwicky family, like lineage of family. And he says that line, which I'm blanking on now, but I'm sure, again, one of you guys can let me know in the comments down below. That line that Sam says in the first movie, played by Shia LaBeouf, in the first movie, he says a line that his great-grandfather, who found Megatron, once said, you know, and they thought he was crazy, and it wasn't like till all or one or anything like that, but it was something. He had like a line that he said to Sam, and I'm kind of blanking on it right now. It's pretty late, but that line Anthony Hopkins repeats, and he says that's something that's been around since the Knights of the Round Table. So then they show flashbacks to the 13 knights at the Round Table, and they're actually, Anthony Hopkins, his castle is on that property that is the Knights of the Round Table. So that table is there, and they're walking around it, and they're doing these flashback images of the knights in this room. And there was 13 human knights and 13 Cybertronian knights, and they were the protectors of Earth. And apparently Anthony Hopkins knows something. He knows why the Decepticons and the Transformers keep coming back to Earth, even though there's always, like, we call them MacGuffins in all the movies, where it's like, all right, first it was Yellspark in the first movie, and then it was like they were looking for the Matrix of Leadership or whatever in the second movie, and then it's like the pillars in the third movie that came from the moon. There's all these different things and different, like, I guess, like stories, like a lineage and legends told through the Cybertronian like lore, even in Age of Extinction, where apparently a version of the Quintessons maybe helped create the Dinobots way back, in the prehistoric age. So apparently, and then obviously in Dark of the Moon, they helped build pyramids or whatever, the Fallen. So these robots keep naturally gravitating back to this planet, and apparently there's a reason for it, like a real reason for it. And so I guess this movie is going to try to tie in some of the lore that's been set up in all the other movies, and try to explain it the best they can. And so I don't know, I found myself a little bit more intrigued than I was expecting with this movie. And even though it still had some of the goofy humor in it and all that stuff, Hot Rod was pretty funny. Hot Rod comes in, he speaks with a French accent, but then Anthony Hopkins goes, he's not really French. He just likes the French accent. And then he's like, no, man, and then so it doesn't look like he is naturally French. It just seems like something that's the identity he decided to choose to be here on Earth. So I thought that was kind of cool. I always like that in these movies where when the Autobots and Decepticons come here, based on what they scan and what their interactions are with their first moments on Earth, they tend to develop a personality geared towards something like that. So I thought that was pretty much in keeping with how they handle the robots in these movies. But yeah, so then there was the scene at the castle. They talk about the knights, and then like Mark Wahlberg is possibly a descendant of maybe someone from the Knights of the Round Table. So is apparently the Witwicky family. Apparently they somehow have connections to that. So I thought that was neat that Anthony Hopkins might be related to Shia LaBeouf's character Sam. I don't know how or what they're going to get into, but I thought all of that was really neat. And he also Anthony Hopkins mentions that he knew Bumblebee as a young boy. He says, I don't know if you remember me, but when I was a young boy, we were friends, and we met once, and I never forget a face. So he knew Bumblebee on sight. So that's, he's somehow connected to this universe. And just having Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins is a really great actor. So it was really interesting to see him in these scenes. where he played up some humor in some scenes, and when he played the severity of what he's saying, like everything just sounds more important when he's saying. He's just got one of those voices, one of those presences that when he speaks, you're like, wow, this adds a lot of gravity to something that might be really cheesy read by a different actor, you know. So I thought that was really great. A great casting choice for Sir Anthony Hopkins. And I also liked Isabella Moner. I thought the scene she was in was good. She showed a lot of emotion, and definitely you could feel her pain when she was looking at Canopy. And I always think there should be a kid and Transformer interaction, like in these movies, and going back to the cartoons with like Spike, and then later on with Daniel and all that stuff. It's like there's always needs to be, and like Mika, I think, and Prime, like all these characters that just, you know, I think it's good to have that for that younger audience, and I think she did a great job. And I think Mark Wahlberg and the woman who I'm blanking on her name, but that comes in, the Oxford professor, they were great. They had an interesting like banter back and forth. Cogman had some more humorous scenes in there, and then at the end they kind of end with this scissor reel just of a bunch of scenes of like Optimus, you know, after he was floating in space, he like lands on this surface, and like you see water dripping off him. So I guess all that ice and space rust like kind of melted away, and then he walks in, he hears the voice of that woman saying, Optimus, like you helped wipe out Cybertron, you know, in Dark of the Moon. Him, like by him and Bumblebee and everyone shutting down the pillars, it almost split Cybertron in half and teleported it back to the other side of the universe. Well, apparently someone is bringing that dead planet back to Earth, and they're going to try to revive it somehow with something that is currently on Earth. And again, like I said, that's all the plot stuff they started setting up. And like I said, Mark Wahlberg looks like he has a destiny, and it looks like all the stuff he's done, like he's been in like, he's like an everyman who's a dad, like, you know, and everything in the last movie, in Age of Extinction. But it seems like he does have a higher calling, and so this is kind of him answering that call. And so I kind of like seeing the progression of that character, and maybe add something to Cade Yeager that might make him more interesting this time around. Not that I didn't like him in the last one, but he was great. I understood his dilemma. He was a protective father, and so was Optimus Prime. So the bond in the last movie was kind of about two fathers trying to do what's right for the people they care for. You know, Optimus being the Autobots and Bumblebee and stuff, and Cade Yeager being his daughter and her boyfriend and stuff. So I like, even though they're not very like well crafted out sometimes, there is the foundations of really interesting character stuff in these movies. And I think this movie in particular, at least the scenes we saw, they definitely show that it felt more story driven. Even though it had great visuals and stuff, even though all the special effects weren't done and not all the audio was done, what we saw looked really, really great, I thought. And so we got this scissor reel at the end. You saw some explosions, of course. You saw the Decepticons being lured into a trap, and they get like by Cade Yeager and stuff, and they get, I guess, blown up. You also see, like I said, Optimus kind of turning evil. His eyes turn purple, and he's like, yes, ma'am. And he's like talking to this voice, this female voice, who is the creator, I guess, or the Quintessa. I think one of the toys revealed that maybe she's a descendant of the original Quintessons, who were, you know, there with their long arms and their pod-like body ships, creating the Dinobots in Age of Extinction. She might be a descendant of them, and she is after something, and she needs the knights. So you see, like the scene earlier with Isabella Moner, when the four boys were rummaging around Chicago, there was actually a tube with a knight in it that came to life. It like woke up, and that's what triggered those Ed 209 type droids, or like the two-legged walkers, to come after them. So apparently lockdown ship, when it crash landed in different parts of the world, or maybe crash landed in one area and a couple pods escaped or whatever. It apparently these knights, he gathered all of them up, and like he said in the last movie, Prime might have been the last knight that he needed to collect. So now Prime has been turned evil, and they show him coming back to Earth and fighting, and Mark Wahlberg's like, no, Optimus, like, it's not you. You got to stop doing this. You got to stop doing this. And Optimus is not listening, and he's just like swinging past Cade, trying to kill Bumblebee. And you see Cade keep trying to get in the middle, trying to stop him. And I like that because, like I said, that connection they had in the last movie, which is two fathers trying to protect their kids. Now Mark Wahlberg looks like he succeeded in keeping his daughter safe, and now he's about to watch Optimus kill his, like not son in Bumblebee, but just like the figure he was trying to protect in the last movie. So I really like that. I think it added something to this universe, and it got me a little bit more excited for this movie than I originally was. And then afterwards, we got to meet Michael Bay, and he signed all of our stuff, and he took pictures with us. And again, if you want to check those pictures out, it's at Seek and Destroy on Instagram. And like I said, links down below if you want to follow me on Twitch, all that fun stuff. Please do. I will have more episodes coming up soon, but this was pretty much the sizzle reel. And I may have forgot a few things, so if I forgot anything or you have any questions, just let me know down in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. I have work tomorrow and the next couple days. I'm working a lot, but I will do my best at night to answer your questions if you have any. But overall, I had fun. I mean, I kind of like these movies for what they are. I think my favorite is obviously the first one, and Age of Extinction. I kind of like that one a little bit too. So this was great. I love the little IMAX sizzle reel they did at the beginning, where they show Michael Bay. He's basically showing you, this is how I make this movie. Like, this is the first time we're using this kind of technology with 2 IMAX 3D cameras kind of grafted to each other and actually shooting things in depth. Like, they showed this nice little making of using these cameras, and they had 2 simultaneously going. So normally when you blow something up and you see shrapnel, you'd have to like digitally layer each one of them. In this, it captures it all in real time, and it's shooting it natively, as he calls it. And it was really neat to learn that kind of stuff. I forget how tech savvy this guy is, and how he works really great with like the US military, and then IMAX, which IMAX even attributes their success over the past couple years to the Transformer movies, and working with Michael Bay. And so that's really neat that this guy is so into that. And he has like a studio in Miami where he edits from, but he has cameras linked to out here in California, where he's telling the editors, here, I edited this, what do you think? And then they get to tweak it and send it back to him, and they get to do it all live in real time. And it was just really neat how just really methodical this guy is, and how just smart he is with the technology part. Like, that's something that I forget that this guy brings to the table. And then also his movies make money. Like, I know a lot of people frown on these movies and stuff, but I personally, I like them. I love the Transformer universe. G1 is obviously my favorite. But I like new interpretations of all these. I think there's maybe been one version of Transformers that I haven't really liked, and I can't even think. It's probably a comic book or something. But I've loved the Dreamwave stuff, the Marvel stuff, the new IDW stuff is fantastic. If you want to check out my review of the Optimus Prime miniseries, that's on my podcast. So, I'm a huge fan of this stuff. I like it. But I want to know what your thoughts are. After everything I've said, what do you have? If you have any questions, let me know down below. If you have any thoughts, if you have a dissenting opinion about this franchise, things you do like, don't like, let me know all that down below. But I will say, come June, I will go see this movie first thing, and I will definitely come back and report a full review for you guys and girls out there. So thank you so much, my fellow Autobots and Decepticons, and I will see you in the future. Peace.